Hey Scorpio, welcome to this timeless reading. There is a lot going on with your relationships, and I don't just mean with people, with places, things, anything outside of self. Seventh house in astrology, which to me is more about our relationships to anything outside of the self, not just with people. Although this very well could relate to your relationships with people as well. But just overall, in general, this reading is going to be regarding relationships and connections, through lines. What what is the dynamic between this and that? Whether that be a person, a thing, or a place. All the nouns, right? All the proper nouns. So yeah, I'm curious to see where this goes. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it yet. It seems very vague up front, and a lot of my readings have been coming through this way. Um, so I just roll with it, and they always end up kind of blowing my mind in the end. So yeah, I'm excited for you to go on this journey with me. Let's get started. Before we dive in, though, my name is Shane. This is the Cup Night channel, and this is a timeless reading. So whenever it found you is when it was meant to find you. If the message is not working, not making sense to you, that's okay. You don't have to claim it. You don't have to watch. Just leave it behind. Although you're welcome to stay and hear it out if you would like, if you're curious. This is a reading for Scorpio, but you do not have to have any Scorpio placements for this to be relevant to you. And I firmly believe that. When I do readings for signs, it is more about connecting to the archetypal energy of the sign itself, I have discovered. And since we all contain the entire astrological chart within us, everyone, even if you don't have planets in it, right? It can still resonate for you. So, that being said, let's get started. I'm going to switch over to my tarot app. This is my custom tarot app I built myself. I am working on making this available to the public as well. I'm still working out the details, though I am making great progress on that. So I'm very excited to bring that out. But anyway, this is your overall energy here that I drew to use as a spacer card, but it was appropriate because we hop over to the True Sky chart here. This is truesky.masteringthezodiac.com. And yeah, this uses the actual size of the constellations in the sky. It's not to say that this is better than Western tropical or sidereal astrology or any other system of astrology that anyone uses. It's just another way of looking at the signs and the planets and the energies, right? This is just one that I personally like, and it works for me when I do readings. So if we look at this, we can see that the traditional ruler, Mars of Scorpio, is in Capricorn in the seventh house, and the modern ruler of Scorpio, Pluto, is also in Capricorn in the seventh house. Pluto is at the 3rd degree, Mars is at the 23rd, so it's like they're straddling this sign. And it's so interesting because for your archetypes, what ended up being on the bottom after I shuffled was the mountain. Very Capricorn-like energy there. Very Saturnian energy. And it's this striving, this devotion, this dedication, right? Mars is all about action. Pluto is all about depth and like secrets, hidden power, right? Deep transformative energy. And it's all in the 7th house, which is all about relationships, the mirror house, right? Everything outside of self. How we interact, what is the dynamic between us and anyone or anything or any place around us. I think I've harped on that enough, but you get the point. And it's so funny because for the spacer card, I use it to kind of like, drag it around and space out all of my words here. It ended up being the Two of Cups, which is all about relationships, right? So I was like, oh, well, the spacer cards are always relevant. I don't know why I always think, oh, I'm going to delete this when I'm done. They're always relevant. So I was going to draw another one for your overall energy, but this perfectly describes what's going on with the planets, the chart, right, in astrology, and with the energy I was picking up on already. So we'll just leave it at this one. The Two of Cups, connection. relation, right? How two things come together to create something entirely new. This is the dynamic between them, right? This red lion. It is the dynamic between these two elements, these two people, these two things. Whatever this is for you, it's very mysterious, very mystical, alchemical, spiritual. It's all the things. So yeah, let's get started. I mean, I don't, oh, it's so funny too, because underneath the mountain, we have the one. And I'm just hearing now the two become one. And with the Two of Cups, that is what's being shown here, the two becoming one to create something, joining together to create one thing from division, right? So it's this coming together. And it's coming together from a very innocent and powerful place, right? We have the eternal child underneath the one and the mountain. And it's funny because I had a vision of a child, which I'll share with you towards the end when I was meditating with Scorpio energy before I started this reading. But we'll get to that later. So I'm going to start by going over the astrological houses. I'm going to draw one card, or maybe more, for each house. It depends on where it goes. But I did come up with some adverbs for each of these. I usually just use nouns, but today it came through as adverbs. So each house has an adverb to kind of describe what's going on with that house. So we'll start over here with one, unexpectedly. And the first house is all about the self. So let's just draw a card first. The Fool. Wow. Unexpectedly, yeah. This is a new beginning, right? This is a new cycle. The major arcana new cycle. So this is a big new beginning. Something happening unexpectedly that liberates you in some way, sets you on a completely different path. Maybe one that you did not expect. It's unexpectedly, right? Something happens unexpectedly to you. The first house is the self. It's you. This is happening to you. So that's very interesting. I think that speaks for itself. Yeah. Let's go down to the seventh house, since it's being heavily activated right now by Pluto and Mars and other planets, right? What else was in here? We have the asteroid Vesta. It says, your Vesta in Capricorn devotes energy to structure and ambition. Your sacred focus is endurance, discipline, and purposeful achievement. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense with the mountain, right? That's what the mountain is all about. So you're investing a lot of time and energy into whatever it is that you have been like pouring all of your focus, your sacred focus into, right? You're treating it sacred, like a ritual. It's like ritualistic. You're showing up, you're being devoted. That's what's coming through here. And being in the seventh house shows devotion to relationships and partnership. Your commitments are sacred contracts. Yeah, whatever you've been devoted to. Like I said, this doesn't have to be a person, though it very well could be. It could be all of the things, right? It could be a person, a thing, a place, a project, a community, all of that. Maintaining dedication within relationships and honoring connection is your spiritual path. So there's a huge focus on like sacred connections between things, the dynamics between things and people and places. And we also have, let's see. No, the sun is in Aquarius, actually. So yeah, just Mars, Vesta, and Pluto right now. And I don't have all the celestial objects turned on for this chart. You can actually go in here and turn on more of them. But I don't want to focus too much on the astrology for the message to come through. So let's keep going. Angrily. Yeah. So there's definitely this intensity to everything in this reading, even with the meditation impressions I got, where it felt very intense, and the vision I had at the very end was very intense. So there's something here about anger, and anger is not always a bad thing. Anger can be used responsibly, right? It's an emotion that humans have, and it's not something to be demonized. It's actually a very powerful emotion that can be used sacredly, to your benefit. You can use that anger for something else. So there's something about anger here and relationships and connections. Let's get a card. The Two of Wands. Okay. So planning, and wands is fire, right? Anger, fire. Those go very well together. Anger can be expressed through all the elements, I believe, but yeah, fire is often associated with anger. In planning, looking out into the world. Yeah, looking at reviewing connections. And 2 is an energy, right? We started with the 2 of Cups, now we have the 2 of Wands. And 2 is an energy of relationships, 2 things coming together. These 2 wands acting like pillars here, right? He's standing in between these pillars, almost like a gateway, and looking into the world. The world is in his palm. Maybe reviewing all the things he has done, how he has shown up in the world, or how this person has shown up in the world. They have shown up in the world. You know, what have they done? There's something about reflection here and being angry. There's something being resolved here. 2 things coming together to create something new, right? And anger is part of this process. So if you've been feeling angry, if you've been, you know, even if it's not necessarily expressing itself directly as anger, sometimes anger can be buried under other emotions like grief and sadness and things like that, depression, right? Because we don't want to, a lot of people don't want to feel anger because it's kind of demonized in a lot of ways, right? But honestly, it is an important emotion. A lot of times it can be justified, right? Anger can be justified. You should, if you're feeling angry, you need to explore it and figure out where that anger is coming from, because that's going to tell you a lot. The anger is there to tell you that you have a reason to be angry and you shouldn't ignore it, right? You should actually investigate it, look into it, right? Maybe make some plans about it. How can I use this anger in my relation to the world, into the things of this world, the things outside of myself, right? I mean, this is a dynamic of the 7th house. Look, here's the self, and here's everything outside of the self. And there's a relationship happening here of reflection and review and planning. I'm going to get another one for this, because what is this planning about? Like, and what does it have to do with anger? Let's see. So the Chariot. This is like, yeah, okay. I mean, fuel, right? The anger is the fuel for the Chariot, for the motion, right? And the Chariot card, it's such a paradox. I mean, the Sphinxes are depicted here. Also, I just realized, let me turn on the censored version of the card. So, yeah, anyway, there's fuel here. And it has to do with reflection on maybe how the things that made you angry in the past, the things from before. But it is your momentum. All the ways you were betrayed, all the ways that you weren't treated fairly, all the injustices, right? Those are typically things that can cause anger, you know? You can use that as fuel. I think you are. You are angrily moving forward. And that's not a bad thing. It's okay to angrily move forward. As long as you're not directing that anger at people who don't deserve it, and things and, you know, animals, places, whatever, that don't deserve it. You're using it in a sacred way. And the Chariot is sacred movement and devotion. It's like justified forward movement is what I want to say here. Following the heart, you know, anger, I mean, we feel it, right? You feel it in the heart. I mean, I think you could say you feel all your emotions in the heart, right? But anger is like, you can feel it burning in your heart. And look, he has this pure white energy, this stable energy source directly in the middle of his chest here. It's part of his armor, right? It goes through his armor to the core of himself, right? There's a need for balance, of course. The 2 is speaking of balance, as well as the 2 Sphinxes here, the light and the dark. And this eternal motion here. It's protected, it's guarded, it's safe. This is sacred anger. It's not something to fear. It's something to embrace, because it's going to help you move forward. Also, I just realized 7 is the number of the Chariot card. It's the 7th major arcana, and we're in the 7th house. So 7-7. Coming to here, 2 7s, right? 2, 7. The number 27 could be significant, or the number 9. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting energy here. And I have a feeling it's related to something that happens unexpectedly here. Maybe this something that happens that you didn't expect is going to make you angry in a very righteous way. Like it's not an anger that is unjustified, is how this feels. It's an anger that is justified. And this could have already happened. Maybe something unexpected did already happen to you, and this is just a confirmation. For others, this could be talking about something that has not happened yet. You know, put it where it goes for you. Always use your own intuition above anything I say. Please. You are your own authority above anyone else. So, let's keep going. We'll move on to the second house now. And here we have recently. So this is recently evokes the past, right? Something happened recently. So I'm curious, what happened recently? Let's go. Page of Swords. I'm curious. Yeah, Page of Swords is the card of curiosity. It's a card of looking into things, researching, communicating even. Maybe even like journaling, writing, taking notes. I'm going to get another one because the court cards, the pages, the knights, the kings, the queens, right? They are representative of people, of like characters, right? Or an action, which is tied to a person. So I believe this is you. You being very curious and looking deeper into things, right? Things that you are new to you. Because pages are all about newness, like childlike energy, right? Once again, we had the eternal child on the bottom. So there's definitely a big emphasis on newness and curiosity and playfulness. All right, yeah, let's get a clarifying card here. The Star. Wow, recently. Okay. So the second house is all about value. And here what I'm seeing is there's a big emphasis on the value of the self. There's a big emphasis on being curious about the value within yourself. Finding all the parts of you, the star, right? This star energy within you. What makes me unique? What makes me shine brightly? What is it about me that I can give back to the world that is valuable? I see you being very curious about those concepts. And recently, I mean, this could mean anything from like in the last week, in the last couple days, in the last month, in the last 6 months, in the last year. You know, it's going to be different for everyone, the period of time this is talking about, but it's recent. It's not like something that happened 10 years ago. Or I would even say not even like 5 years ago. Maybe something within like the last 2 or 3 years. Within that time frame, I would give it. And we are in the second house, so I'll say 2 years. We'll go with 2 years. Within the last 2 years. That's how we'll qualify this, but you know, that's a loose qualification there. Yeah, so that's very cool. This is great energy. And I have a feeling, you know, as a result of this, of looking into, you know, what is it about me that makes me valuable? What do I find about myself that I find valuable, right? Because the value comes from your own authority, your own definition. It's not what anybody else tells you. It's what you believe about yourself, right? And the star is all about the self. It's also about larger communities, but it's about showing up as yourself within the context of larger communities. It's Aquarius energy. So yeah, there's something here about this work of you finding new things about yourself, being curious about these things that you never connected with before, setting you unexpectedly on this new journey. Maybe this is something you never thought you could see yourself doing or getting into. And now here you are on this major new journey, this major new beginning. And it's fueled by the injustices that you went through, that happened to you from everything outside of the self, everything the world did to you, right? You're looking back at like everything that happened to you, and you're using that as fuel to propel yourself forward. Yeah, this is all coming together very nicely as we progress. So this is great. This is fantastic energy. Let's go to the 8th house now. I'm just going to kind of ping pong. So the 8th house is opposite the 2nd house. This is Taurus, right? The 2nd house. And the 8th house is Scorpio. So here we are. at the Scorpio house for the Scorpio reading, and we have mostly. Mostly in the eighth house. The eighth house is about like secrets. It's also about shared resources, intimacy, sexuality, very deep things. Things that go deep, 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 deep. Especially emotionally, spiritually, right? It's all about transformation too. Scorpio, the sign of transformation. Scorpio is the only one I'm aware of that has 3 different animals associated, or 3 different figures associated with it, right? It's the scorpion, the snake, and the eagle, I believe, are the 3. The eagle said to be the highest expression of scorpionic energy, but it's all about transformation and transmutation. So let's see. We have mostly. I have a feeling this is mostly the energy you've been working with in this new cycle. The 8th house energy, scorpionic energy, right? Huge transformations, all about you looking into the values you hold about yourself and the world, right? That's what's going on here. And maybe a lot of anger involved in this process. And it's not unjustified, it's justified anger. You had a reason to be angry. And now you've learned how to use it. You've learned and you are learning how to use it, right? It's a continuous process. So let's see. Mostly. 10 of Pentacles. Wow. Okay. So this is another card that speaks of like inheritance and shared resources and legacy, right? A lot of 8th house themes shared between these two, this card and this house. And we have mostly. I'm going to need a clarifier for this one. If it were just the card in the 8th house, I would say this is about some kind of wealth coming in or inheritance, right? Something that you were unaware of that is yours, right? Through connection somehow. There's some kind of connection you have with people or with places that have this kind of like that have wealth, that have abundance, that have legacy. But let's see what else wants to come through. 3 of Cups, celebration. Yeah, coming together, right? Huh. It's interesting how I just kind of realized this, that second house is all about value, right? The values we hold internally and externally. And the 8th house has a lot to do with that as well. But it's like the other side of it. It's like the second house could be seen as the more like exoteric side of it, even though it is part of an esoteric framework, right? But the 8th house is more esoteric, it's more hidden. So this is like immense value hidden within, mostly within. I'm getting that you've been reframing the things that you find valuable through this process. You have been or you will be. But although this says recently, right? So I feel like you've already done it, but to some extent. But there's a big reevaluation of value and what it actually is, where it actually comes from, and I think you've mostly discovered that it comes from within, from a connection with the self, right? 3 of Cups giving me it's making me think of the 3 faces of the moon, or rather the feminine energy, right? Which would be the maiden, the mother, the crone. What I'm getting here with the 3 of Cups, with these 3 women, these 3 feminine figures, they don't have to be women, celebrating with each other. It's a very feminine celebration here. So there's a big emphasis on connection to the feminine side of yourself and the value there. Massive value, ancestral value, right? Very deep. This goes deep. It's not just something that like you cultivated in this lifetime, which I know that's a controversial thing for some people, But if you believe in past lives and the continuance of the soul of the self through eternity, right? Then you kind of have this idea of inheritance from past lives, from previous experiences that you have had as a being, right? As the being that you are. And it's seeming like there is a wealth of experience that you found back there, mostly from the eighth house, right? From the depths. And it has a lot to do with you reconnecting with your feminine energy, with you learning how to celebrate the feminine sides of yourself. You know, the right brain, as they say, the less analytical, the more creative, the more intuitive parts of yourself, the symbolic parts of yourself. Okay, let's go to the third house. Politely, yeah. Third house is Page of Swords energy, Gemini energy. It's curiosity, it's learning, it's close connections, it's relationships. Let's see. Queen of Cups. Wow, okay. Queen of Cups. Huh. Let me get another one. Let's see. The World. Wow, okay. So, this Queen of Cups, I feel, is someone around you, figure in your life. And there is a major ending. The World is completion, right? It's the last of the major arcana, number 21. There is a polite ending here. It of some kind of cycle. It doesn't necessarily have to be disconnection, although that's what came to me first was disconnection. But it's the end of some way that of your relationship how it was before, of the dynamic before. There's a new dynamic. You have the full and the world. The beginning and the end in this reading already. This could also be, if there's not a person coming to you, this could be, once again, an emphasis on the feminine side of yourself and how there's a massive transformation, a massive change in the way that you relate to this part of yourself, right? The Queen of Cups is highly intuitive, highly emotional, highly spiritual figure. She goes deep, right? She's intently, look at how intently she's looking at this sacred object she's holding, this holy object. And it is her, right? This thing is her that she's holding. And she's going deep within it. She's seeing the reflection of herself in it. Can't help but notice all the children on her throne here. There's a child with a fish. These two, like, cherub-like creatures, right? This one's hopping out of the water, out of the depths. Something new, right? She's finding new things about herself by looking into these ancient objects, these ancient symbols that have existed for all time. Right? And she's doing it politely. She's being very gentle with herself through this whole process. It's led her to the end of something, of a cycle. Now, this could be working on both levels, externally and internally. You could be internally going through this, and also externally, there's someone you have a relationship with where this way of relating changes. It fundamentally changes into something completely different, right? The nature of your relationship has fulfilled some kind of contract, or something has played out, essentially, is what I'm trying to say, between you two, and now the way that you relate to each other is going to be completely different. It's a new cycle, a new dynamic between you two. And I'm not saying it's going to be good or bad. It's going to be different for everyone. It depends on the dynamic between you and this other person. So you have to get a personal reading to go into that, right? This is a collective reading, so it's the energy is, it's very generic, very general, very archetypal, right? So yeah, that's good. I think this is a very nice thing. I mean, this reading is absolutely fantastic so far. Let's keep going. Let's go to the ninth house now, since we're doing these like parallel house thing. Opposite the third house is the ninth house on the astrological wheel. So where the third house is about close connections, ninth house is about unfamiliar connections or distant connections even, or unknown connections, right? The foreign, the things you don't know that well. It's also about learning and discovering, just like the third house is, but it's the other side of it. Instead of things that you're already like really comfortable with, it's things that you are not so comfortable with, I would say. We have healthily. Yeah, you're healthily engaging with foreign concepts, with things that you're not so familiar with foreign cultures, right? And they're only foreign because you haven't reconnected with them in this form, in this life, right? I feel I don't normally use like past life verbiage or words like that, but in this reading, I feel it's very important. There's a huge emphasis here on like the eternal nature of the soul and the cycles of previous lifetimes. It feels very important for this reading. So yeah, you're healthily engaging with these unknown, right, in this lifetime, unknown aspects of you, of the world. So let's see. The Eight of Swords here. Oh, interesting this comes out with healthily. All right, give me a moment here. I'm going to zoom in on this actually. Let's see. Healthily. Yeah, okay. I get it. So we have a callback to the eighth house, right? The Eight of Swords. So this is, once again, it's about the depths, but it's so interesting because we have the flip on this card being depicted here. She's standing in a low tide zone, right? The water has drained from the area that she's standing in. But she's not like in trouble. She kind of looks at ease, right? Her body is just kind of like, I don't know. She doesn't really give me this like struggling energy when I look at the way this figure is depicted in the card. She is tied up and she's blindfolded, but the swords being in the ground, it's like the mind has been grounded, right? The swords represent the mind, the air element. There is something here about standing still, stillness, right? All the swords are still. They're stuck upright in the ground just as she is standing there upright in the ground. And they're not moving. They're not being used. The mind is not being used here. It's the intuition that's being used here. And her feet are in the water. She's standing in a puddle. So even though the environment that she finds herself in, there may not be much depth to it, right? It's very solid. It's very stable. There's a castle behind her in the distance. There is wealth here. And yet she has kind of gone off into this more scarce landscape. And she has grounded her intellect. Instead of using her intellect to try to like carve up the environment, right? She's just grounded them, all of these swords, right? We're going to pretend in this scenario she's the one who put the swords there. And she's willingly blindfolded herself. She has restricted one of her senses in order to heighten the other ones, right? Her sense of sound, of hearing, of smell, of taste. Her third eye, even, I would say, is heightened with the visual apparatus being cut off here. She's tapping into in a different way, in a deeper way, right? Mostly. Yeah, eighth house, mostly. It's mostly in this like more transformative, more esoteric, right? Eighth house is Scorpio energy is more of like a mysterious, esoteric energy. And she's using that here. This isn't about being bound to something or stuck in a horrible situation. It's healthily. This is healthily happening. This is healthily interacting with an environment, a possibly new environment, right? In a completely different way. Maybe in a different way than you've ever done before. And it's going through a deeper way. It's mostly through the eighth house. Mostly through mysterious methods. Maybe to others, this looks like you're absolutely crazy. It looks like you're hanging yourself out in a horrible environment, right? With a bunch of sharp objects around you, and you're just standing there like you've willingly suspended yourself, you've willingly bound yourself in order to gain some kind of insight in a different way. And you're doing it's a healthy way. It may not appear that way to others on the outside, but it is. It's just different. Let's get one more for this. Seven of Cups, yeah, okay, yeah. This is the dream realm, right? The realm of visions. Look at all these visions. What are they? What are they pointing to? Often when I see the Seven of Cups, I like to think that this figure here is magnetic, like this red aura around this like Holy Ghost figure is kind of like a magnetism drawing this person towards it. But I'm seeing this differently now for this reading. I'm seeing it as this figure is generating all of these images, all of these visions. And really, this figure is just another aspect of this figure, the one having this experience. This, like, look, she is having this experience. Her eyes are closed, they're cut off. This is what she's experiencing in this environment. She's being given visions. She's being given signs and symbols and messages. And they may be a little overwhelming. What with this person standing there like, oh my God, what does all this mean? What does it mean? You know, they have to be processed. And that's why her thoughts are grounded. And that's why there's so many of them. She's processing a lot, right? There's a lot to be processed here. Yeah. Healthily. You're healthily interacting with you're healthily interacting with the universe on a symbolic level, on a meaningful level, on a feminine level. It's beautiful. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. Fourth house, awkwardly. Fourth house can be about the home. It's also about ancestry, right? But it's Cancer energy, and I did see a vision of a waving crab. It had its claws up in the air and kind of like waving them like this when I was meditating. We'll get into that later, but there's something here about like an awkward situation regarding foundations, your home, your where you're staying primarily, what you consider to be your place of rest. So let's see what's going on here. Judgment. Oh, okay. This is a Scorpio card. Judgment. Yeah. Things are coming up, right? I mean, look, the universe, this angel, right? A representative of God, of spirit, of the universe, whatever you want to refer to the all, the everything as, is raising up something that was buried, right? These people were in coffins. These spirits, whatever you want to see them as, they're coming back to life. And I always see the Judgment card as something is coming back from the dead, and in such a way that it's like the things that were buried, the things that were pushed down, right? That we don't talk about these, very Scorpio, right? Secretive, mysterious. It's like they're being called back now. It's time to face them. judgment time. Time to own up for what you buried, what you did not. Well, it's either what you did properly put away, and now it's coming back to also honor you because you honored it, whatever that is for you, but it's also the things that you didn't properly bury, the things that you didn't honor, right? If you didn't properly handle something, process something, guess what? It's coming back. And this could be for you, this could be for people around you. With the fourth house, this is about close connections, right? It's right after the third house. It's about family, so that doesn't have to be just blood family. It could just be anybody you consider very close to you that is like family, right? This also, to me, is speaking of past lives. Again, there are parts of yourself, right? All these different people, you could see them as different aspects of yourself, because we are multitudes, all of us. We are multitudes of different archetypes, and it's like these powers, these past lives, right? They're coming back. And there's something awkward about this. Let's get another one to clarify. What is so awkward about this judgment? Page of Pentacles. Okay. All right, I'm seeing this on a lot of different ways, and it's because it's a collective reading. And even if it was just for a personal reading, there's always a lot of depth and a lot of different angles you can take for symbolic readings, right? So one way this is coming through is there's evidence being dug up, right? Evidence that is going to provide judgment, is going to cause judgment, right? Somebody's going to have to face something. There's something new coming to light. It's new to some, maybe not to others. But either way, it's like, oh, look, I found something. Look at this. And now there's a reckoning. Another way I see this on like the internal side is this is something about yourself that is being reawakened, revived, and it is very valuable. It has immense value, and you're very curious about it. And it's a bit awkward because you don't know how to use it. You don't know what it's for yet, maybe. You don't know how to. It's just like learning a new instrument, right? If you've never played a saxophone before, it's going to be a bit awkward at first. Something is happening awkwardly, but it's also ancient. There's roots here, fourth house. It's being reawakened in you. Those are really the only two perspectives I feel I need to talk about for this one. So, okay, we're good. Let's keep going. 10th house, opposite the 4th house. Whereas 4th house is more like inward and about like where you came from. 10th house is more about like where you're going, right? It's Capricorn energy. It's this, right? It's the mountain. And we have hopelessly here. So there's a striving. There's definitely a striving going on in your energy right now. And it has to do with you seeking the source of yourself, of the universe, going deep, deep, deep within big structures, right? The mountain. Look, I know. Here, let me switch to the other screen really quick just to blow this up. See this figure? They're going deep inside the mountain. They're mining, right? They're finding the value within this ancient structure that they've ascended to the top of. Long, arduous journey to find something, to find themselves, really, to find the universe, a source, the one, the connection, the paradox of reality. But there's something that has been very hopeless about this striving. Maybe it's because you haven't really seen any payoff in some way. You know, maybe you have, like, internally, like, there's a lot of confirmation about the repeating signs and symbols and messages that you've been getting, but there's less, like, external confirmation of this. It's all very internal. So I feel this journey has been feeling very hopeless, right? Let's get a little bit more. the devil of Capricorn energy, Saturn, right, coming through for its house, the 10th house, hopelessly. Yeah, you may have been feeling like you chained yourself to this task. This card is not just a negative card. It's about devotion and commitment and energy, right, to keep going. But paired with hopelessly, we have to read it in a kind of hopeless context. So what I'm getting here is that, like, kind of going through the motions, right? Showing up, doing your duty, but feeling like it's not going anywhere, that you're just kind of losing hope, right? Something is like hopelessly continuing. And it has to do with your work, with your public image, with the way you show up in the world, right? The things you're striving towards. So let's see. Let's get a clarifying card for this devil. Page of Swords again. Okay. Yeah. So curiosity. Curiosity about this hopelessness in regards to the way that it interacts with your striving, right? With whatever you're devoted to. Let's see here. Where was the Page of Swords before? In the second house. Yeah, Earth, Taurus energy, and Capricorn, Earth again. So there's something here about the material realm, the physical realm, right? And this energy of a feeling maybe a bit burnt out, a bit like when am I going to see any kind of result for the work and the devotion that I have put into this journey, this new journey I've been on, right? Because we started here with unexpectedly. Something happened, something you got into was not something you expected to get into, right? And yeah, once again, I mean, we have the Page of Swords and the Star here, you finding the value within yourself. And then once again, we have the Page of Swords here, you looking at the work you've been doing, right? And just maybe trying to figure out why you feel so hopeless about this. I'm gonna get a third one for this, because we know that you're paying attention to it, right? Page of Swords. But what's going on here? We need another layer here, Spirit. Let's see. Knight of Wands. Interesting. So the Devil, the Page of Swords, Knight of Wands. And hopelessly. I mean, this is a card of passionately moving forward, right? If you look at the Devil card, he's putting a fire behind the male's ass here. He's like literally lighting a fire under him, and he's going, right? I mean, there's definitely not an energy of giving up. It's more of a spiritual nature, right? Hope is very spiritual. And you may be trudging forward hopelessly, right? Going into this, now that you've made it to the top, you're going even deeper. You're like, okay, I made it to the mining entrance here in the mountain, but now I actually have to go inside to find the valuable minerals and ores and things, right? And you may be doing this hopelessly. I don't really know how else to say that. That's just how it's coming through. But you're still doing it. Like, even despite your lack of hope that this will actually turn into anything, you're still doing it. I just had a thought pop in. The difference between hope and faith. That's something to reflect on for you. I'm not going to try to define it here for you. It feels important that I give this to you as like a task. I'm giving you homework for this reading. So journal this, write it down. It doesn't have to be something super intense. It's just something you could do in 5 minutes, right? But what is the difference between hope and faith to you, right? There's no actual answer here. There is no correct answer. It's just, what does it mean to you? What is the difference between hope and faith? That's your assignment. Okay. Let's keep going. We are now at the 5th house, readily. Yeah. And that just brings me back here, right? The Knight of Wands. He's readily moving forward. And the 5th house is Leo. It's passion, fire, right? Desire, play, drama, even. And there's something here you are like readily tapping into: creativity, right? Expression, the child, the inner child, the eternal child, right? Definitely Leo energy coming through this archetype here. Drawing from the energy of the sun, the ruling planet of Leo. All right, let's see here. It's readily available. That's what's coming through for me right after that. Readily, this energy is readily available. You only need to draw it forth from yourself. And I'm gonna blow this up again so you can see it. But on this eternal child archetype, you can see at the bottom there, the left hand is drawing this energy out of the sun there. You see that stream, that faint stream coming from the sun down towards the hand? And it's interesting that it's the left hand, because the left side of the body is associated with the feminine in a lot of spiritual traditions. And the right side is about action, and you can see the right hand here. Let me make sure I'm looking at this correctly. Yeah, the right hand is kind of like pointing, like directing, making a move, kind of. Whereas the left hand is drawing this energy from the sun. So this card kind of elegantly is showing us the way that you can use that energy. And I feel like you've already been using it this way. And the sun is one of our ancient ancestors, right? For all of the earth, everything in our solar system, it is the source of life, of creativity. So, not to be taken lightly here, but it's readily available to you, this energy source. So let's see. 10 of Cups, yeah. Yeah, this is what you can use to create your dreams. Readily available for you. This joyful, happy energy is readily available for you. Get another one. King of Wands. Okay, yeah. The king of, using that passionate energy, using the energy of the sun, right? Wands are fire. What is the sun? Fire. Plasma, I guess, but yeah, it represents fire. You get what I'm saying, symbolically. Yeah, I don't. There's really nothing else to say here. There is this mastery, right, with the King of Wands, of action in regards to the way that you connect with your dreams and the way that you use this readily available creative energy, right, source energy, to create your reality. It is working. It is working, even if it feels hopeless, right? Even if the only confirmations you've gotten so far are simply symbolic and spiritual, it's because things take time, right? Saturn, Capricorn, the devil, things take time to materialize into this physical world. It requires a lot of commitment and devotion and focus to bring it into reality. But there is a recognition here that you just got to keep doing what you're doing, right? So across from the 5th house, we have the 11th house. So the 5th house is more about like personal expression and kind of focused more on me, right? Like me, And the 11th house is more about like you in the context of others. It's Aquarius, right? And fervently and readily go fantastically together here. There's complementary energy here. Fervently is doing something with great passion, with great spirit, right? Being full, like using your soul, right, to express yourself into the larger world, into helping bring forth the future, right? The 11th house is also about the future. So let's see here. 8 of Swords again. Interesting. And with fervently. Yeah, once again, this is a very internal process for you, even when you are connecting with the things outside of yourself, with larger communities. However you do that, right? Whether it's in person or online or whatever, it's it's a very personal, deep internal process for you. And it's one that you're interacting with on a very symbolic level. You're not necessarily using your eyes, right? Your physical eyes for this. You're going within. You're putting the thoughts down. You're grounding your thoughts and you're going within. You're stilling yourself. You're keeping yourself still so that you can tap into the environment, interact with it on an energetic level, on an archetypal level. Let's get another one. Three of Cups. So many repeating cards. Okay. So where was the Three of Cups before? The 8th house. Yeah, 8, 8, 8, 8 from the 8th house, right? So there's a big connection in the way that you interact with the future and with broader communities, with the world, right? And it is a way of connecting with people on a very deep level, not just mentally. It's beyond that. You know, you've put your antennas in the ground. Deep communication, grounded communication, symbolic communication. And it's good. It's good. You're going to find people who like this. There's going to be collaboration and communion and coming together and celebration. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. We have the last two houses here, the 6th house and the 12th house. 6th house is Virgo energy. It's all about health and service to others. And we have basically here. So there's something about doing something very simply, right? Basically. And I know we use basic as in this day and age, right? As like you're basic, like boring is what it means essentially. But I don't feel that for this. Not here. This is saying that there's something great about basics, about doing something basically, especially when it comes to your health and the way that you show up for others. It doesn't have to be complicated, is what it's saying. It can be basic. You can do something basically and it be very good and valuable. So let's get a little bit here. Temperance, yeah. Balance, persistence, dedication, commitment to the work, right? Doing something from a very high level, right? There's an angel depicted here. This is a high, creature, I want to say, high entity. And the work they are doing is in tune with the environment and leading down this path to this crown, essentially, here. You could see it as. The sun is represented here on the third eye of the angel. So there's a reference back to the 5th house, connection to creativity. And I mean, he's mixing and matching, right? The upward facing triangle is another reference to fire. Temperance is associated with Sagittarius, which is a fire sign. And Sagittarius is all about focus and goals, right? And also like being out in the world. It's associated with the 9th house, which, as I said earlier, is about connection with foreign concepts, things like that. So yeah, basically do the work. Remain committed to your goals. It doesn't have to be any fancier than that, right? Your devotion is a sacred process. Let's get another one. Three of Cups again, yeah. 3 times the Three of Cups has come out now. In the 6th house, the 11th house, and the 8th house. Let's see, what is that? 17 and 8. That's 25, which breaks down to a 7. Seven is my favorite number of the like 0 through 9 numbers. So that's cool to me. But yeah, 25 or 7 could be significant for you at this time. Basically, yeah. I mean, there's a reason to celebrate doing something just very basically and consistent. Just showing up and being balanced. It doesn't have to be fancy. Like, you don't have to live up to expectations of others. Anyway, I'm not going to harp on that too much. I feel like you know this. You know this. All right, 12th house. Doubtfully. Yeah, okay. So, doubtfully for the 12th house makes a lot of sense. 12th house is about endings and deep mysteries, very archetypal. It's like, collective unconscious, that kind of stuff associated with Pisces. And there's something here about struggling with doubts, interacting with this very deep spiritual house on, on the level it requires. It's a very mystical, non-concrete. It's water, right? It's very fluid, can be very confusing. And there's something here about wrestling with doubts, interacting with this house doubtfully. So let's get a card. Yeah, here's another card of going within, right? And it's funny. The only swords we have are the Eight of Swords, the Two of Swords, and then the Page of Swords, I believe, so far. Yeah. And as far as the pip cards go, right? The 1 through 10 swords cards, both of them are female leaning, like feminine energy cards, and they're both about going within. Look, they're both blindfolded. She's not tied up, right? But she's sat on this throne and kind of using these swords as like a defensive posture, but also as like antennas, right? She's pointing them up. Whereas these swords are grounded. These swords are kind of like up in the air. It's almost like she's receiving and she's transmitting. Receiving, transmitting. So there's something here about transmitting mystery, right? 12th house is mystery. Let's get another one. The Four of Wands. Celebration. Call back to the 4th house awkwardly. Doubtfully. Okay, let's look at all the water words. Doubtfully, awkwardly, and mostly. Okay, yeah. Clear as day now. What I'm getting here is that your spiritual journey is new to you. It's very new. And interacting with these things on a very deep level it feels awkward. It's full of doubts. You're not sure if you're doing it right. You're not sure if it's actually real because you're not seeing it reflected to you necessarily, right, in the physical realm, right? It hasn't you haven't really seen anything come into fruition, manifest, right, as a result of this journey you've been on. Or at least you think you haven't. Maybe you have, and you just haven't really realized it in some ways. I'll say that I'm guilty of that. But anyway, there's something here about the way, because water is spirituality. It is that like fluid part of life that is much more hard to pin. You can't really pin it down. It just it evaporates. It flows through your hands, right? You pass your hand through water and it just moves. It creates ripples and reverberations. Very mystical, and it is hard to pin down, and that's okay. And you feeling awkward or doubtful about interacting with this type of energy is, that's fine too. That's okay. It's part of the process. And it's probably not even the last time you'll feel this way when engaging with these kinds of things, because we are so conditioned in this modern time period we live in, right? To not really look deeply into these kinds of aspects of life. They're not as emphasized as all the other things, as like drive and material gain and finances. The more spiritual, mystical side of life is kind of downplayed, and that has a lot to do with the feminine aspects of life also being downplayed, right? Like women, So it's okay. You're doing it right. You have reason to celebrate here. There's success. Four of Wands, right? You are connecting on a very deep level with your roots, with ancestral energy, past life energy, if you want to put it that way. If you want to think of it that way, with universal energy, archetypal energy, right? You're doing it. And I think you're doing it even despite all the doubts. It's just hard not to have the doubts when we have been so conditioned to believe that way in this lifetime, in this time period we find ourselves. It's part of it. right? And it's not anything evil. It's just I believe, going into my personal beliefs about the period of time we find ourselves in here, just to qualify this a little bit, is that this time period is meant to be very disconnected from these more spiritual aspects of life in order to show us what it's like to live that way, to be that way, so that we know how important it is to have that connection, to have that balanced feminine and masculine energy, right? Because if you don't know, it's like trying to see black without white, right? It's not possible. You have to have the contrast, duality, right? It's just the nature of this existence, this realm that we are in. And so I see it as a big lesson. And the depths of that lesson are terrifying, right? It's the abyss. You know, I really do believe that life is all things that are possible, will happen and have happened already. And the implications of that from our human mind, from our human perspective and experience is terrifying. You know, that's why God or spirit or the universe in a bunch of different religions is seen as terrifying, as something to fear, because it is overwhelming to our ability to perceive the depths and the meaning behind it all. I mean, I don't think we really can do that as a human. You know, we're limited for a reason, and it's so that we can have these limited experiences in order to understand what limitless really means, right? What infinity, eternity really means. You can't have eternity without the opposite, right? Without limitation. You can't have infinity without limitation. Very paradoxical. And that is the nature of this life. All right, anyway, let's keep going. So, yeah, I don't blame you for feeling doubtfully about interacting with this very deep spiritual, archetypal level of reality. It's hard. It's hard to interact with, and it's hard to know if you're just being delusional or if you're actually tapping into something real. And I think you can do both at the same time, which is paradoxical, I know, but that's the nature of it. It is a paradox. And you have to reconcile that paradox for your own life through your own lens in order to understand it fully. And it's not easy. It's not. All right, let's keep going. These are the meditation impressions that I had, all these white words here. And yeah, I'm just going to go left to right. So, first thing I saw was a flying box. It was literally just a box with wings, and it was flying. And yeah, this is symbolic of something being delivered, possibly coming to you through the air on a plane. It may be a package you ordered that you didn't know went on a plane to get to you, right? A lot of FedEx, UPS packages, even USPS packages go through planes from one side of the country to the other, or even from another country, in. Anyway, something is traveling through the air to come to you, to be delivered to you. And it's also giving me something kind of angelic. It's like it's from, maybe you're not actually getting an actual package, but it's more of something from the higher realms is coming to you. Special delivery, right? Let's see. 7 of Wands. Okay. The need for protection of some kind. Let's see here. Let me get another one. 6 of Wands. Wow, 7 and 6 of Wands. Okay. Victory. This is protected. Whatever this is, this package that's coming for you, it's meant for you and you only. Maybe you can use it to aid others around you, right? But it's for you and it's protected and it has something to do with your image. The 6 of Wands is like public recognition. Yeah, this is very mysterious. It's kind of an outlier for the rest of everything else, I feel like. But let me get one more. 10 of Swords. Oh. Okay. You know what's funny about boxes, right? They are material, right? They contain things. They are containers. They contain messages. They contain something valuable, whatever. But it's physical, is the implication here. So this is something coming to you in reality in some way. It doesn't necessarily have to be an actual box with something in it, but it's like it's something that's showing up for you in the material reality, and it's going to cause an ending, potentially a painful ending, but it leads to something better, right? The sun is rising here in the Ten of Swords. It is a card of death, of ending, and particularly in the way that something is perceived, right? Because swords are about communication, perception. So there's an ending, a big ending here, in the way that something is perceived, and it's a victory for you. Special delivery. All right, let's keep going. It's mysterious, and I feel like it's meant to be. It's meant to be mysterious for you. All right, let's keep going. Diving creature. I thought this was interesting. It came right after I saw the flying box. I saw just like this like Pokemon like creature. It wasn't a Pokemon I recognized, but it was like a Pokemon like creature, and it was like diving deep into the ocean. And it came right after flying box. So we have flying, diving, box, creature. There's like this mirroring going on here. But yeah. Let's see what this diving creature is about. And this connects to the vision I had at the very end of my meditation, which was very intense and powerful. So I can't wait to share that with you. This reading's gonna be very long, so sorry if you you can skip around. I've always got time codes in the description for my videos, but yeah. Five of Cups. All right. So there's an element of reflection here, definitely, on the past and emotions that are potentially difficult. Going deep into that, right? In a primordial way, a creature, right? In a very ancient way. Let's keep going here. Another one. Yeah, curiosity. It's like this ancient sadness is what I'm getting. Ancient sadness. This could have something to do with your family line, or even something beyond that, right? Depends on how deep you're going, you're interacting with this energy, right? It's gonna be different for everyone, but there's something here about deep into like primal ancestral sadness. And there's nothing wrong with sadness. Like, once again, it's like anger. It's just another emotion that we have that is telling us something. It's a vibration, right? It's an expression of something that wants to be interacted with. It doesn't want to be ignored. It wants to be acknowledged and inspected. Page of Swords. And I feel like you're doing that. If you're not, the advice here is to do it. To look into the sadness, to go into the depths, to dive, to embody this like primal, ancient, form, whatever that means for you. For me, that's meditation because it allows you to transcend your body, right? It's beyond. Okay, yeah, that one's mysterious too. I feel like all of these are going to be mysterious. So, lots of very deep internal work for you to do. We have a jolt. And this, to me, this goes back to something unexpectedly, right? Unexpectedly, a jolt. It's also giving me tower energy, the lightning bolt on the tower for the Rider-Waite-Smith images. But yeah, let's go. Let's see. Judgment. Oh, okay. Judgment also makes sense. And it's you again. So we have judgment twice now. Yeah, like I said, there's something here being awoken, a jolt, right? It's like making me think somebody like shaking somebody to wake them up. Or somebody like being in a deep sleep and then just like jolting away. Have you ever done that? Like you had having a crazy dream and then you just like, whoa, you jolt awake. Yeah, there's an awakening here happening, and I feel it's not just for you. It's like it's you and people around you. You get one more for the jolt. The sun, yeah. clarity. Something is being illuminated. Something new is coming into the picture. But it's joyful. It's success. It's good. It's something that needs to be, right? The crowned and conquering child. Huh. Judgment and the sun. What a powerful combo. Man with jolt, right? I mean, to me, this is like lightning energy coming out of the trumpet of the angel, or like fire. Like he's like, I mean, jolt implies electricity, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. Okay. I was sitting here in front of this candle that's behind me. If you didn't notice it, yeah, that one. And my cat doesn't really ever bother me when I'm meditating for these videos, but he jumped up on that table and like went right up to the flame and put his nose really close to it. He didn't put it in it because he can feel the heat, I'm sure, but he's never done that before. With any kind of fire that I've ever had around, like a fireplace or anything, he's never gotten up close to it. He always stays away from it. But this time, he never jumps up on the table when I'm meditating either. So he jumped up on the table, got really close to the flame, looked at me, and then jumped down. I was like, wow. During my meditation with Scorpio energy, that's significant. So, and then I was going to just write like, a curious cat, but I heard, right as I was going to write it, I heard like a cat to a flame, which is a play on the phrase like a moth to a flame. But there's a difference here because cats and moths are fundamentally different, right? Cats they don't use like fire or light as a guidance system like moths do. Moths use the light of the moon to guide them. They use it like a GPS. That's why they get confused when they're around other light sources. It confuses their guidance system, and then they just kind of spiral around it. But cats don't do that. He was just curious about it. So there's something here about, once again, this Page of Swords curiosity energy. I mean, how many times do we have the Page of Swords now? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 times. So 3 Page of Swords and 3 Three of Cups. 33, 33. Number 3 is very significant for this reading. But yeah, just curiosity and being drawn to something bright and warm, interesting. Let's see. Page of Pentacles, yeah. To me, this is all the pages are curious energy to me because that's what children are. They're very curious and they like to find new thing. Everything is new to them, right? They like to inspect and ask questions. So yeah. And in this case, this is insinuating that this thing you're being attracted to, right? This warm thing is physical in some way. Pentacles, earth energy. Get one more. 10 of Pentacles. Wow. Okay, so you have the 10 of Pentacles twice too. So many repeating cards in this reading. It's crazy. Okay. You're being drawn to something very valuable. Like a cat to a flame. You're just very curious about it. You can feel it, and you're just like, you're getting really close to it. You're getting really close to it. My cat's name is Lenny. I feel like that's important to say. I don't know why, but maybe that will resonate with someone out there. Like a cat to a flame. All right. I heard invariable definition, and to me, this is just, it just means something that is constant. It's unchanging. It's invariably defined. The definition of it doesn't change. And I feel like this has something to do with this 10 of Pentacles. It's like, because this is the most concrete of all of the like pip cards, right? It's the final one. It's the culmination of earth energy. And so it's like there's something here, it's like etched into reality. It does not change. It is there. Nothing's going to change it. So I'm curious to see what this is. Let's see. Knight of Pentacles, yeah, once again, just confirming. Yeah, well, Knight of Pentacles is slow and steady movement. It's devotion, very Saturnian, right? Commitment. And also just like, it is all the levels, right? It's everything condensed into this physical reality. Invariable definition. It's very slow moving, but it's constant. It doesn't change. It's not going to change. Let me get another one. It's something you manifested. You called this in to your reality. You did the work, right? The magician comes right after the fool. Something you unexpectedly went off on, right? You just had faith in and just said, okay, I'm going to do this. I never thought I'd be doing this, but I'm going to do it. And this is just saying, the result of your work, of your journey, it's you created it. You did it. You gathered all the necessary elements and you brought it into reality. Okay, let's keep going. And finally, we make it to the waving crab. I mentioned this earlier. Cancer energy, right? It calls back to the fourth house, which is something about like awkwardly, an awakening, maybe some kind of evidence or some kind of like aspect of you that is reflected in your material reality in some way. Something you can use in this physical plane that you're not familiar with. It's a bit awkward to interact with. But yeah, a waving crab. It was very cute. I mean, it was like I wasn't seeing it as a cartoon. It was like an actual crab, but it was cute, and it was just kind of like waving its claws in the air, like it was dancing. So I don't know what this was about, but let's see. Five of Swords. This is a winning, right? It's not always like I have to win at all costs. It's not always that dire, right? It can just talk about winning, right? In general. And now I'm getting like the crowd was dancing, right? And what do like athletes and what do they do when they win? They dance, right? Often they just like kind of. That's like the crowd was dancing. They're like, yeah, I won, I did it. Well, what did you do? What is this related to? Queen of Pentacles. Yeah. Okay. So there is the Five of Swords comes with a warning when you are represented as this figure who's holding all these swords, right? And I feel like you are the victor in the scenario. We already saw the Six of Wands. You're definitely a victor in some sense, right? So I feel there's something you were right about. And it has something to do with the home, right? Crab, Cancer, fourth house. It has something to do with very close connections. You were right about something. You were looking into something. You were just kind of sitting with it and like not really doing much with it, but just kind of like nurturing it, just kind of like watching it like a mom would watch a baby, right? Holding it, just kind of like, okay, I see you. I'll take care of you for now. You were right about something you like were invested in, mostly internally, Queen of Pentacles. And it is, I mean, when you win, and ultimately it's going to make other people jealous, right? That's just, it happens, right? Human nature. That's what's being represented there in the background. Some these people are walking away. This one's kind of crying in the distance, right? It's like you may be right about something, but please don't get too smug. That's the warning of the Five of Swords here. He looks very smug and like, hey, told you so. Don't do that. That's not good. Be more Queen of Pentacles. Just be very caring and nurturing. Like, okay, I was right, but let me remember that my victory may not necessarily be just because I was right doesn't mean other people feel good about that. Like, not everyone's going to be celebrating with you. Sorry, my throat's like going out now. Hold on a second. Yeah, sorry. Anyway, yeah, people might want you to shut up, right? And the Queen of Pentacles she's not like a boastful figure. She's very like integrated into her environment and in tune with nature, right? The nature of others, even, we'll say, right? She's not boasting, she's not smug, she's just looking at this thing that she was right about. We'll say the pinnacle is what you were right about. And she's just looking at it like, yeah, I was right. but I'm going to be quiet about it. I'm just going to sit in my own, it's okay to feel good about you being right, but you don't have to rub it in other people's faces, which is what's kind of happening. That's what's kind of happening here in the Five of Swords. He's kind of like rubbing this in their face, like, hey, I have all the swords now. It's so great. Yeah. No, you don't have to do that. Please don't do that. All right. Finally, we have made it to the vision that I had, and it was so powerful, and it was so funny because I wrote down the waving crab, and then I was like, okay, Spirit, is there anything else, or is because I was feeling like it was over, like my connection, I had enough to give a message, and I said, is there anything else? And I heard one more thing, and then I just felt like everything dropped, like I was descending. Like I had my eyes closed, and I could feel like literally my spirit descending. So I was going deeper and deeper, like the diving creature, right? I was going really deep into something, and I was like, okay, I'll stay with this until I feel like it's over, because I didn't know if I was gonna have a vision or if I was going to hear something. I never know how it's going to come through. Sometimes I see things, sometimes I hear things, sometimes it's both. In this case, it was both. I saw and heard this. And it wasn't long, it was very short, but it was very powerful. So, a child floating in the depths, surrounded by primordial sea dragons. They chant resonant tones. And this was crazy. Like the child, it was like this shadowy child figure. Just like I couldn't see the details of the child, but it was like in the distance. It was just like a silhouette of a child, and it had this glow around it, like an aura of light. And the light aura from the child was showing just, shadowy outlines of these massive, I called them dragons, but really they were more like, you could say monsters, creatures, just, they were like dragon-like, but not necessarily just like a classical dragon. But they were very big, so big that like the child was like, the size of like a pea or an ant, and floating in the middle of these like three massive sea creatures. And they were so big, it was like they were standing on the bottom of the ocean floor, and just their heads were surrounding the child. Sorry if you hear my dog. Anyway, she's just confirming this is important. So this child's just floating there, these massive creatures, and they're chanting. They chant resonant tones. They were kind of saying words, but I couldn't. It was like I was in water. They were chanting, and it was like I was hearing it through like water. Like I was down there in the depths of the ocean, not as the child, but just like observing from far away. And their chanting had something to do with the aura of the child. And so that was the vision, essentially. There was, I can't really describe it any better than that. It was very powerful. And when I came out of it, I was like, okay, I see why I needed to wait for that. Thank you. Like I am honored that I had this experience. It was very powerful. So once again, there's this dichotomy between the new and the very old, right? The child representing the new, and the ancient, the dragons, the primordial creatures of the depths, right? And there's a connection between the sound of the ancients, of these ancient primordial figures, and the creativity of the child, the aura of the child. So interpret that how it fits for you. I'm not going to try to explain it. I know what it means to me, but it's going to mean something different for everybody. But I had it, and it was meant to be shared. So I do want to draw some cards for that, just to see. I'm going to draw 3. So actually, what I'm going to do is, I never really use this feature on my recordings, but I have this to where I can draw a certain number of cards. So I'm going to do 3. And there we go. Okay. So they always show up within the frame that I have it in. Like if I zoomed out, they could have been anywhere, but because I had it like this, they showed up within these bounds. But anyway. 9 of Pentacles, 5 of Cups, the Emperor. Wow. Yeah. Okay. The way these showed up is important too. I'm not going to move them. We have the 9 of Pentacles coming up first to the left, right? So this is self-value, right? This is like being good, like having mastery of yourself and something in your environment, or many things maybe. and having a lot to show for it. Like, it's obvious. You appear wealthy and valuable and like knowledgeable to others. That's what this is coming up as. We have the Five of Cups again. So going into the depths, looking deep, the Three Cups make me think of the three primordial creatures I was seeing, right? The sea dragons, I called them. And then we have the Emperor. So there's like action here. Authority. The Emperor is also, from like a Jungian archetypal perspective, the Emperor represents the father, and the father, from Jung's perspective, and it makes a lot of sense to me, is that the father is a bridge from the ancestors to the child, and he's kind of like a mentor figure, right? And that's what's coming through here. The Emperor, I also heard it on a podcast I love to listen to, Weird Studies. They were talking about the Hierophant, actually, but they mentioned the Emperor, and they were saying the Emperor is more of like a horizontal, whereas the Hierophant is more vertical connection. So the Emperor is like the dominion of the earth, right? And the Hierophant is the dominion of the spirit, of the spiritual, of the higher realms. So there's something here about earthly dominion with the Emperor coming through. Yeah. There's, I mean, just power. And it's tied to this deep sadness. There's a literal bridge here. And it's funny because it's like a bridge from, it's coming from out from behind this figure too, even like he is the bridge. Like I was just saying, the father as the bridge. And it's this bridge of knowledge that is like heavy. It's not even that it's like depressing, because some people read the Five of Cups as like depression, right? It can be that, but it's more than that here. It's just heavy. It's heavy energy, heavy spiritual energy, heavy emotion on the emotions because of the weight of it. And that's why you have to have a mentor. You have to have this bridge in order to show you why it's important and why it's so heavy. But it's coming through here as mastery. You've mastered this. Mastery here, mastery here. The feminine on the left, the masculine on the right. The bridge in the middle. And once again, there's a huge emphasis on ancestral, ancient, past life, whatever you want to call it, connections and meaning. And I feel you on your journey, you have mastered this at some level. You've connected with it on a very deep level. And now you can use it in this earthly dominion. You can employ this connection that you've developed in this earthly dominion. It's fantastic. I did have some words. I get these mishmash words that come through when I'm meditating as well. And I don't want to go over them too much. I'm just going to briefly mention them. So the first one I heard was Uxworth. And it sounded like kind of like an English name. That's how it came through for the definitions I generated for it. So I'll just run through these really quick. A hypothesized English-style place name interpreted as Ux's enclosure or homestead, evoking small village, manor, or rural community. A possible surname derived from such a place, suggesting an old family or lineage tied to an English estate. Yeah, once again, there's this idea of lineage, family, ancestry, inheritance, right? Estates. I don't know, an English estate specifically for some of us out there, And then a coined brand or concept name blending UX, user experience, with worth, used to imply the value, quality, or measurement of user experience. Yeah. And that is a web development kind of concept where, it's like this app I made. the user experience is the fact that you can drag around the cards and you can create text fields and the way that you do them, the experience of doing it, right? That's the important part. That's the user experience. So there's something here about the experience of something being like the measure of it, the measure of an experience. And then the last one I had was Squeachy, which I thought was funny. But yeah, this one's kind of weird. It says, having a combined squeaky and squishy quality, especially producing small, high-pitched noises when pressed or moved. Describing something that feels simultaneously soft, slightly wet, and noisily compressible, like certain toys, gels, or shoes in mud. I thought of the, like, it's not Play-Doh, but it's like this, like, slimy Play-Doh-like stuff from when I was a kid, and you could, like, push it in the container and make, like, a farting noise. I don't know what it's called, but silly putty. Silly putty. Yeah, that's what it made me think of. And then finally, figuratively, nervously reactive, shrill, or comically gross in manner or mood. Yeah. So I have no idea how this relates to the rest of the message, but it came through and I felt like I should mention it. So there may be something funny and gross happening around. I'm going to draw some cards for this one. Okay. Okay, I don't know. I'm getting this as there's a figure around you who's holding something back, and when they finally let it out, somebody holding in a fart. I don't know, and it's gonna be squeechy. Oh God, that sounds disgusting. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for this. This reading was so beautiful until we made it to this point. I don't know. Somebody's holding something back, and when they finally let go of it, when they finally release it, it's gonna be like funny in a very disgusting way to you. It's gonna be comically gross. Something that maybe it's like an illusion is how this Four of Pentacles is coming through to me. It's like they wanted to appear this to appear stable and solid, but really it's like squishy and makes funny noises when you poke it. And yeah, I don't know. Okay, let me get another one. Three of Wands, expansion, growth, looking for opportunities, squeechy, nervously reactive, thrill. This third definition, because the number 3 was emphasized so much in this reading, it feels the most important here. But yeah, nervously reactive, shrill, or comically gross in manner or mood. Let me get one more. No, swords again. Okay, callback. Another repeating card. Where was that? Flying box. Somebody can't stop something from happening. I feel like somebody wants to, or they're trying to block it in some way. They're trying to hold on to it, but they can't. It's going to expand. It's going to grow. I feel like you already know about this. Like you've had intuitions, you've had inklings, and it's going to end. And it might not be such a pretty ending when it does end, but it's going to shift perspectives, going to bring in a new dawn, right? Allow things to progress. I don't know, but it's squeechy, whatever it is. Okay, I do want to get you an oracle, and I'm actually going to use a Sabian symbol oracle. I was playing with these earlier today with my own natal chart, and the symbols related to my chart positions were mind-blowingly spot on. So I'm using sabiansymbols.com. It's let's see. Oh, whoops. Oh, I didn't mean to click on it yet, but okay, we got it. Anyway, it's what is her name? Linda Hill. I guess this is her website, and she writes some descriptions for the images, and they're associated with like basically the Sabian symbols are 360 degrees, just like the astrological wheel, right? And each degree is a different symbol. So this one is the 28th degree of Capricorn, and it's using like Western tropical sidereal astrology, where each sign is 30 degrees. Anyway, so yeah, we got Capricorn once again, the mountain, right? The mountain energy coming through. 28, a large aviary. So, yeah, before I read her description, I just want to say initially my impressions from this. A large aviary is a large space where winged creatures live. They can fly around and they have roosts and perches all about it. It's making me think of the Nine of Pentacles, right? Because, I mean, she's holding a falcon, I believe is what it is, right? She trained this falcon. She probably has an aviary where the falcon lives. So there's something here about mastery coming through, a large aviary, and like things flying around. Something about training winged creatures. All right, let's see. This symbol shows being able to take in a lot of information to be social, yet have some time alone. The large aviary has a lot of citizens, all buzzing around, all interacting and full of life. There's a lot of chattering and flitting from one thing to another going on, and while there is no harm being done, perhaps sometimes there's nothing much really being achieved. Is this because there is a level of mental confusion happening? At the least, there is likely to be a feeling of brotherhood and not being alone. In fact, finding time alone can be difficult. Yeah, so it's like a busy environment. A lot going on, a lot of communication, right? Wings makes me think of air, birds, communication. Definitely. So we have clairaudience, many inner voices. You might have clairaudience, the ability to hear things. I do that in my meditations. I hear words and phrases, and they come through in really weird ways sometimes, like the mishmash words that I get. But yeah, lots to say, little content. So that's the idea of, you know, somebody just being very verbose but not really saying much, just talking to talk, essentially. Communicating only in the immediate environment. The internet. The internet could be important to you at this time. Bird songs, confined spaces, psychic, the media. And then these are kind of the negative connotations for it from her interpretations. Mental confusion, bringing a lack of discernment, chattering, not doing. Gossip and intrigue. That feels important to me. False sense of freedom, abandoned living spaces, caged birds. Yeah. There could be a lot going on around you, a lot of chatter, a lot of people talking, especially in relation to like a living situation, right? Maybe you feel trapped where you are in some way, even though it might be a nice place. Like an aviary makes me think of a really nice, like, makes me think of like an estate with an aviary. And we had an estate coming through. But yeah, it's like this place that has this really nice aviary, but it really is a cage for the birds. And how often do they get to go out, right? And it's like these close connections, the citizens of this aviary, there's some gossip and intrigue going on. There's a lot of talk, but it's little content. They're saying a lot, but it means little, right? So there could be some of that going on around you. And this was for advice, right? I was meaning to do this for advice. But I think the advice here is to, you know, listen to the inner voice over the outer voices here, over the chatter that's going on around you in your home environment, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that these people have to live with you, but it could be just like people who live around you that are close, like family members or people you consider to be like family members, right? So just, it doesn't mean anything, like it says, lots to say, little content. It's just stuff that you can ignore. And also, I think you are very psychic, right? You are tapping into things that you can hear, you're getting messages, hopefully you're writing them down in some way, you're documenting them in some way, reflecting on them to go deeper to that primordial, that ancient primordial state, right? Where you have the connection between the new and the very old, you know, the absolutely cutting edge and the absolutely ineffably ancient, right? So, yeah. Okay. This reading is very long. I did not expect this one to go. I never do. They keep getting longer, it seems like. There's so much that comes through, I just feel like I have to get it all out. So if you watch this whole video, wow, I'm amazed. Thank you so much. But if not, I get it. Like, it's a lot. So I do put time codes in the description so you can jump around if you want to like inspect a certain part of the video, because there is a lot here and it's all connected. So feel free to check that out. Also, I have other links if you want to get a reading from me. That's there. You can donate to the channel if you feel so inclined. Please like and comment. If you have anything to share, comment, or just like the video if you liked it. It does help. a little bit, you know? And yeah, other than that, that's it. Um, thank you so much. As always, take care of yourselves. Keep your heart open. Bye.